Alright, the first thing we're going to use to try to get rid of our adhesive is just Goo Gone. I've already got it on the playfield. It's already a little messy. So this is essentially naphtha and some other solvents and things, and some citrus power, whatever that is. So we'll try this first. We'll just put some on, and we'll use our finger to try to get some of this junk off. Maybe I can try some paper towels or a rag or something. Let's just see if we can get this stuff off of here. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to be coming up at all. More Goo Gone. What a mess. Yeah, it's not really doing very much. Yeah, that's kind of a waste of time. It's not coming up. Well, there's a little bit. Fingernail. Let's try. I've heard people using things like credit cards. I don't have any credit cards. Not on me. Let's try this. Little plastic squeegee dealy bobber. This is kind of working. Kind of. Not impressed. No. Alright, Goo Gone out. So, another thing that people use is, I've heard both with Goo Gone or Naphtha and rubbing alcohol, they put that down and they sprinkle a little flour on it. The flour acts as a binding agent, so the adhesive sticks to the flour and it sort of builds up like a snowball, a little tiny snowball, and you end up getting it to roll up into bigger and bigger beads. So I don't have wheat flour because I'm one of those retards that can't eat wheat. I have a couple of different kinds of. I have a brown rice flour and I have cornstarch. So let's try cornstarch and see what that does. I'll just make a huge mess because who cares? So this is starting to come up. I can feel it lifting. You probably can't see it on the video, but it's starting to bead up. I think cornstarch might be a little too fine of a powder for this to really work. don't think it's quite gritty enough. Alright, so let's clean up this mess and we'll try rice flour, which has more or less the consistency of regular, real people flour. This might still be too fine, but we'll try it anyway. Goo Gone. That's working. That seems to be coming up. Doesn't seem to be taking any paint with it. Yeah, so this section right here that seemed to work fairly well. Okay, so that's the Goo Gone. Let's try rubbing alcohol. So this is 99% isopropyl alcohol. We're going to try this in a different section, and it's pretty sticky right here. Let's see if we can get this off using the same method. So it's at first it feels like it isn't coming up, but then I think as the alcohol starts to starts to dissolve the adhesive a little bit and soften that up, that gives the flour a chance to kind of work its way into it, and then it starts that beating up process. Although I don't know if I would say the alcohol was better. It's working, but I don't know if it's better than the Goo Gone or not. Okay, that's that. Let's try pure Naptha, which is the solvent that's in Goo Gone, without the citrus power. Let's see how that works. So this is sort of the process that I figured out works the best, at least in this instance. Sprinkle down the flour, and you can kind of smooth it out, and you can tell where your adhesive is that's left. A little bit here and a little bit here. Then take your Naphtha, get a little wet, and just rub, and it just all comes right up. There has to be enough flour for it to bind. If your flour gets too saturated with adhesive, it seems to not work as well. So that just came right up. There's a little bit right here. A little bit more Naphtha. See, this has gotten sticky, so put a little flour in there, and it just all comes right up. Yeah, that seems to work. Okay, so that was interesting. I think going forward, I'm going to go ahead and use the Naphtha and the rice flour. The cornstarch was a little bit too fine. It didn't really grab it, and I don't have any regular flour because I'm weird that way. But the rice flour seems to grip. Off camera, I went ahead and cleaned up this little section right here, just using the rice flour and naphtha. And what I did was I just sprinkled a layer of rice flour down, smoothed it out, and let it kind of grip into the adhesive, and then just a little bit of naphtha on top of it, and rubbing across it, and it just all peels right up. It's actually quite easy. It takes like no time at all. The Goo Gone works, but I think that there's too much residue. It leaves too much citrus power behind, and then you just have to go through and clean that up anyway. So kind of the middleman, just go with naphtha. Alcohol probably is equally as good. The naphtha, I like that it evaporates quicker though. The alcohol kind of hangs around a little bit longer. So when it evaporates away, then you can kind of see where you're at. Yeah, so at least removing the adhesive, my recommendation, and I think what I'm going to go forward with, is just naphtha and flour. For removing the Mylar, I think that it's probably safer to go with the canned air and freezing it off. I think that you run a risk if you're using heat. I actually did make quite a mess of it down here, maybe because I was going too fast. The paint itself kind of curled a little bit. Like it's definitely rough. This whole area that I used the heat, it's rougher than where I used just the freeze. So it's possible that it damaged the paint. Over by the slingshots, however, they both worked equally as fine, equally as well. They both came up. They didn't take any paint. They didn't damage the paint underneath. No problems either way. But I think that there's risks using the heat. I think that you can get too close. You can burn things. You can melt stuff. To me, it just seems safer to use the freezing. So those are my conclusions from my little experiment that you got to be a part of. It was fun. Well, kind of fun, I guess. I don't know. Until next time, thanks for watching.